Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us. We're pleased to have Konstantin Pushternik with us today.
Glad to
Welcome.
be here. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you to the audience for joining us today. We hope to cover a number of different interesting topics, all surrounding AI, AP automation, and the transformation it's had on Konstantin and his organization, Forest Products Distributors. With that, I'd like to introduce Konstantin, Director of Finance at Forest Products Distributors. You want to give a brief introduction to yourself, Konstantin?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Constantine. I've been with Forest Products now here 4 years. We are a full service lumber wholesaler. We've been around for about 40 years, and we've grown and adapted as the lumber market and that industry, and continue to evolve with it. We do everything from manufacturing fence posts and pellet products to remanufacturing lumber products and wholesale retail from overseas. So we do a little bit of everything. We kind of really tout ourselves as a jack of all trades.
Just to interject here, you gave us a fun fact about the number of fence posts, I think, that you guys actually distribute and that people probably don't notice, but they see every day.
Yeah, well, we're a pretty big player and a supplier for the government. And we're a very large player in the fence post industry, especially around here in the Midwest. So, a lot of the fence posts that individuals might drive by in the Midwest on those highways here definitely likely have been manufactured by us. But yeah, we're a pretty big player in that market as well.
That's awesome. Love learning those fun facts about our customers. So we kind of want to take it from the top and start talking about how your journey began. Can you describe a little bit for the audience what the AP process looked like at Forest Products Distributors and before you implemented automation in OpenEnvoy?
Sure. So the lumber industry as a whole, I would say is a very old school, traditional type of market. A lot of face-to-face conversations, a lot of handshake deals, phone conversations, and such. Technology isn't exactly at the forefront of much of what the industry has done, historically speaking. Around the time that COVID came about, certainly I think has altered a lot of people's perception and perspective as far as efficiency gains and ways to just improve overall business operations. So I think our industry is a little bit late to that game, but ultimately coming around, our operation was a little bit old school. You know, manual pieces of paper moving from our office to our manufacturing facility, which is although in the same city, about 10 miles apart. So a manual component where papers can get lost. You know, there's logs that need to be kept for the paper shuffle, and certainly has slowed down the turnaround time. That absolutely was a factor in our payables process, and obviously because of that sort of format, then traceability, visibility goes a little bit out the window. So we continue to try to improve in every bits and component of what we do as a business, and we identified this as being one, and we were able to find OpenEnvoy.
Yeah, so you suffer from probably what a lot of our customers do, highly manual, very key entered, error prone, delayed, slow process. So when you went looking for a solution, what kind of popped out at you? How did you kind of come to OE and then ultimately select OpenEnvoy as your partner for automation?
Sure. So for us, it was once we discussed internally about the issue and how we wanted to ultimately find the right partner, then it was kind of up to me to and our team, and so not just me. We have a wonderful staff. We all did a meeting of the minds and made notes of what we want the solutions to do, and ultimately be able to um, utilize and to improve our operation as a whole. So once we all were on the same page there, then it was about going out and finding the right partners. And fortunately enough, we were able to explore several of options, OpenEnvoy being one of them, and we were able to critique each one individually and really understand the pros and cons of every platform. Ultimately, ending up on OpenEnvoy as the right partner for us for what we wanted to solve today, and kind of the possibilities that exist with OpenEnvoy in the future too. So it was a two-pronged
Hmm.
sort of solution component that um, seemed like the right fit for us. And funny enough, it was a friend that referred me to the software, and one thing led to another, and here we are. So
We love referrals, by the way.
yeah,
One of the
that's
things
the
I
best
know
kind.
that's important that's important for customers is the, partnering with the right team and being able to implement quickly is, kind of a plus for a lot of vendors. I know you've been involved in a number of implementations, including one now. How have you found kind of like that process? Kind of how did it meet your expectations? How was it sold? Did it go to your kind of the projections that you had with your senior management?
Yeah, I think because of my role, I think organization and follow through on that organization is key. So I think OpenEnvoy, yourself included in your team, did a wonderful job of really setting a baseline of expectation, having consistent schedule, which was followed and really um, guided to T. So I was very, it was never, there was never any doubt or confusion or misunderstanding as far as where we at, whose court the ball was on, what the expectation was, what the task at hand was. There was a lot of communication, a lot of visibility and trend. What's the word I'm looking for? Just visibility during the whole process. Ultimately, that led to nobody being confused or lost or frustrated in this process. So I actually really I thought it was a fairly smooth process. Obviously, with the organization our side, with the nuances that we had, there was a few additional steps that needed to be taken, but we were able to do that together well as a team and fine tune it. And so then when we went live, there wasn't necessarily the hiccups or problems, but rather just the small fine tuning, as so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like a main driver to get automation into your company, how did you work with and how did leadership respond to the idea of, what I think most people would call pretty cutting edge technology, bringing AI into your organization?
Yeah, well, the good part is we had ownership buy-in and leadership buy-in. I know for anybody who's been in similar um, positions as myself, it's important that whenever you do roll out something like this, that there's leadership buy-in and understanding that, hey, we have a problem. That's and we need to solve it. And we're fortunate enough to have ownership that's very supportive of this sort of transition, and we were able to, with OpenEnvoy's help, really present a very clear and concise um, visibility to why we think that this partnership would be the right partnership for us, and how we think that it could be fruitful from us from both an operational efficiency standpoint and a bottom
Hmm.
line component. So it checked a lot of the different boxes. So I think for us, our ownership was actually that part in the equation was one of the easiest parts, because it was kind of like, hey, this is how we become more efficient. This is how the the winning components of this partnership could be, and they were all thumbs up and ready to go. So we're fortunate enough to have that conversation on the front end. So then
Yeah.
by the time
Right.
the right solution came about, that it was actually just finding the right partner rather than blindsiding them with this sort of conversation, so to speak.
Interesting. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are probably trying to figure out how do I get, does it work first off, and then how do I get it into the organization as fast as possible? So let's talk a little bit about benefits here.
Sure.
You've been using it for some time now, so you've got a kind of fresh perspective on how things have changed. How about let's talk a little bit about the biggest improvements. I think speed was one of the things we talked about before. Can you walk us through how that approval process has changed and kind of give us a little insight?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. With that manual aspect of our operation, as I noted, I would say our average turnaround time was right around a week. You know, by the time that that piece of paper got from our AP department to the plant, then got the proper approval, gets back, gets entered, and so on and so forth. It absolutely was a little bit of a slow and snail's pace, so a sort of process. And since then, we're probably averaging about two-day turnaround, 2.5 day turnaround. So, you know, we've certainly sped up that process, absolutely. And really, that process moves as quickly as the approvers in the process. So it makes it's certainly helped the speed that I was hoping it would help
Hmm.
with. And I think our accounting team and our suppliers, you know, ultimately are hopefully happier as well, because you know we're able to get those APs entered and processed a lot quicker, and so form a better relationship with those companies. We're paying quicker, and so good on all fronts on the speed side.
Awesome. The other aspect a lot of people talk about is with automation and the extraction and matching that we have, you get a lot of more visibility in the data. Can you tell us about how that's kind of led to more strategic operations within your department?
Sure. The unique component of what we're going through is we're in the process of a switch on ERPs. So we weren't
Okay.
able to hook up ERPs just yet, and that's certainly another level of efficiency that we're excited to um, partner up with on OpenEnvoy. But for us, the visibility, you know, as I spoke to a manual process that we had before, I think it's very easy for management to see a document, approve it, and kind of send it on its way for AP to take care of. And I think the visibility of what their true spend was lacking to some of our management. Sure, we had some of those conversations internally, but I think constantly having the visibility of that spend, so my management in the right position can critically review some of those decisions, was immensely helpful. And Open Envoy has this dashboard and summary that shows exactly their spend, and they
Hmm.
can break it down to, oh, okay, I'm curious what our current spend is on this project. You alluded to labels earlier in this conversation. So there's labels or the GL accounts or vendor specific invoices. They have that visibility and traceability at the palm of their hand, and I think that's really helped empower them and even think a little bit more about the
Right.
spend rather than just doing it
Hmm.
frivolously. Which is good. It's certainly spurred on conversations, wonderful questions that um, our leadership team are having, and so that has been one of the unexpected but great results from this, is that dashboard that sparks some of the
Right.
conversations that hey, you know, I didn't realize this is happening, this and for that. And so the communication that certainly spurred on has been a wonderful benefit that I didn't necessarily peg on having, but has been a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah. So you covered part of the next question. I think you used the words at your fingertips or might be palm of your hand, but the data accessibility piece,
Right.
how does that kind of help facilitate either, shorter, greater velocity, more insight, ease of
Yeah.
use for you or your executive team? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the limitations of our current existing ERP, I would say our management team, especially at the plant, wouldn't have some of this data at their fingertips when they make a decision. So they have to rely on what their memory or past relationships were. So this way, that they're able to actually in real time look up information. Oh, how much was this piece? Who did I buy this from? Okay, what do we have going on with this company? And they have the answer to their questions at their fingertips, you know, by just looking up that in that dashboard, as opposed to in the past, it was reaching out to somebody in the accounting team and say, hey, do you have some of this information? I'd love to pull it. And
Mhm.
you know, you just eliminated a couple people from that equation, and that
Right.
manager now has the power to make their own um, conscientious decision based on the facts that they have at fingertips, which will allows us to be a lot quicker to the trigger and make some of those calls, especially in the manufacturing world where some of these expenditures do happen in
Hmm.
very real-time live speed, and they need to have that power and be informed as much as they can be every time they make those calls. So I think that's been good, and will continue to just be honed in for them as they get more comfortable with the software.
Awesome. Just the follow-on question, when we were going through implementation, you and your team got pretty proficient at configuring
Sure.
OpenEnvoy to your requirements. So one of the things I think you leveraged is our ability to tag, um, the tagging feature. Maybe you can explain a little bit more for the audience, how you used it, the flexibility, the insights it provided, kind of like the robustness of how you chose to use some of the features of the platform.
Sure. Well, for us, we have multiple kind of not kind of, but we have multiple entities within our parent structure,
Hmm.
and underneath that, there can be, for example, very specific projects that are being worked on, and with our limitations on our ERP side, we've been able to really utilize OpenEnvoy's label mark to, no matter which company was getting billed in this situation, or if the expense wasn't hitting the same GL, we can classify it under the same label. So then when we want visibility of truly tracking what the project is costing, we're able to just click that, and it can commingle all the different entities, the different GLs,
Hmm.
all into one umbrella, which allows us more visibility to see what is our true spend on a certain project that reaches multiple entities, or and multiple and touches multiple GLs. So that's been definitely a positive tool, because we seem to always have multiple projects going at us every single
Right.
time, and for us, we recently had a fire, so we had some obviously some spend related to that. So being able to track that in a much more linear, quicker fashion, rather than kind of really our previous method was really to keep a binder of all the manual invoices, which isn't necessarily wrong, but there's certainly less accessibility if somebody has that binder at their desk. But
Right.
somebody in another state has to have some visibility, and needs to make some decisions based on that. So commingling it in one place, one central place that's visible, easy to access, and easy to shift through, certainly has been a pleasant uh, benefit to OpenEnvoy, certainly.
Did you say fire? Right? Is
Yep,
that what you
yep, there
said?
was,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Yeah, I don't think you told me about it, but I can't imagine it being good in your industry. Um,
No, but hey, just like with anything, I mean, we're fortunate enough that it wasn't, catastrophic in nature or anything like that. And
thank God.
sometimes, you learn the most, and we were able to, you know, learn from it, and build back stronger. And yeah, so it's been a wonderful learning tool. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of the industry, in our discussions, we talked about the forestry industry, and you kind of described it as fluid processes and needing flexibility. Can you describe a little bit more about the uniqueness and how, this solution was able to kind of pair up with your internal process?
Sure. Because of the multiple entities that we we processed all under one roof, there needed to be some flexibility and maneuverability when we did receive invoices and our AP processing, um, as sometimes our vendors don't necessarily invoice the correct company or the correct bill to, um, or if there's an error within the invoice, there needed to be some fluidity in the sense of how are those handled, how are those tracked, is there a central location where all that can be tracked? That way there's more visibility to process all that in a very visible, streamlined way. So we were able to really enjoy that component with OpenEnvoy, because we really are able to adapt no matter what sort of approval process any invoice needs. OpenEnvoy has made it very easy for us to build the right process in place to allow that to get to who it needs to get to as quickly as possible, and then get the approval as quickly as possible, and then get that paid as quickly as possible. It used to be of okay, hand this to Joe, and then Joe is like, no, that's actually John's, and then John hands
Right.
it off to the next one, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. And for all you know, that piece of paper gets lost, and
Yep.
whose fault is it? Well, we don't really know, but at some point it touched six different hands and it got lost. So having a system like OpenEnvoy that's allowed us to um, go through those unusual circumstances that do pop up in there, and being able to handle the system in that way, and making sure that that piece of paper doesn't get lost, only continues to help build a better relationship with our suppliers and our vendors, and making
Right.
sure that they're continuously going to get paid and get paid on time, and we don't have to worry about something getting lost in the shuffle.
So really kind of increasing the overall level of assurance to all your business partners and
Yeah,
internally as well, your senior
right.
executives.
Yeah, everyone wins in that retrospect for sure.
Great. Um, One last question. If you had to pick one significant change, and you've highlighted many, thank you for doing that in today's webinar. But if you had to highlight one, what is the biggest that you think that automation and OpenEnvoy's brought to your AP operations?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, really, that visibility has been great. Our AP clerk recently reached out to me and said that
Hmm.
she has a little bit more time on her hands, so she's asking for additional projects and things she could do. So, I mean, in theory, that's what you want to hear, right? I mean,
Additional projects.
that's
Wow.
well, if ultimately with an AP solution, you want your AP team to feel like
Yeah,
some of their
that's right.
time is being freed, and ultimately, I that was achieved through OpenEnvoy, um, and so I'm excited to see kind of where we can go from here, and how to continue to fine tune OpenEnvoy's abilities, and just continue to help us.
That's awesome. We did want to try and we are a little tight on time, but if there are any questions that audience members want to ask, please put it into chat. I think we do have one, um, and I'll ask it. I'll paraphrase a little bit. After onboarding the automation now, what's been the biggest upside surprise and expectations? And keep in mind, I think hopefully a lot of the audience members are ones who are probably on a very similar journey to yours, and they probably want, they want that
Sure.
kind of practitioner's guide, that insight. And I'm kind of reading into this question a little bit.
Sure. No, to me, honestly, the biggest surprise, going through different implementations of different programs in the past, I would say the thing that I've been most pleasantly surprised with is really OpenEnvoy support team. And I know that you guys didn't ask me to plug that in or anything like that, but it's been true. As soon as a ticket is submitted, it feels like the response time is very quick and very prompt by the OpenEnvoy team, and that's been great because things do happen. That's true about every industry, not just IT. And the same way we pride ourselves to always take care of our clients when something does go wrong. I feels like OpenEnvoy has a lot of that same uh, value in the sense that when something does go wrong, your team is very quick and very prompt to try to make sure that that issue is resolved, and escalated if needs to be escalated. But really, that's been a very pleasant surprise. Be, how well, especially in those first couple of days and the stages, how well we were treated and followed up on, and made sure that everything was going as well as we could, to make sure that we're not just by ourselves and trying to
Right.
figure things out. Yeah, we never felt
Yeah.
alone. I would say no one in our department ever felt alone, and like, oh, we don't know how to operate this. We always felt supported, and that was a big kudos to the team for OpenEnvoy.
Yeah, that is, I'll have to say, part of our partnering strategy and our model to make sure that customers have what they need to be successful. So I'm going to just quickly, I think for the audience member, we will respond back out. We have your contact information with the answers to the additional questions that were asked. But I wanted to thank you, Constantine, for spending the time with us, telling us about forestry products and the kind of ubiquitousness of your products on the freeways. And then I invite the audience members, if you have additional questions or want any more clarity or want to schedule something with us, feel free to reach out. We have various lines, openenvoy.com. And I want to thank you again for joining us. We'll see you guys on our next webinar. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.